Nice to see everybody, and what a privilege it is to be here today to introduce you all to my friend and colleague, Todd Harris. When Todd was 18 years old, growing up in Raleigh, North Carolina, playing video games, he had an option to attend a lot of universities and colleges and study a nascent field called computer science. Todd's first choice, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. However, Todd actually enjoyed playing video games, playing computer games, and writing computer games a lot more than he enjoyed writing college essays. So as part of his essay to his application rather, to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Todd submitted his very first computer program, his very first computer game. Suffice to say, he was accepted to Chapel Hill. He got his BS in computer science from UNC, and soon after moved to Atlanta as a programmer for NCR. He then went on to work in product development for Radiant Systems and Blue Cube Software. In 2005, Todd founded High Res Studios, which is now one of the largest video game studios in the entire Southeast, with over 450 employees. Well over 100 million people around the world have played a game that was developed here in Atlanta at High Res. In 2020, after building out an esports infrastructure at High Res, Todd went on to complete a management buyout, starting a new esports company, SkillShot Media. Based at the Lindbergh Center in Buckhead, which is now being redeveloped as Uptown Atlanta, in an area that's going to be a gaming and esports hub, SkillShot has hosted thousands of esports tournaments, paid out over $10 million in prizing to players in competitive video games, and delivered over 1 billion views of esports content. Todd is also helping to give Atlanta a professional esports team so that we can all cheer for this team. Ghost Gaming is in fact the team, and as well as an organization in esports, it's a gaming lifestyle brand with over 13 tournament championships and 9 million followers. Last year, Todd and other Atlanta partners brought Ghost Gaming to Atlanta with a focus on building a truly diverse and inclusive gaming community and brand. Todd is going to tell you all about all of this. I also want to mention that Todd is a leader in esports education. So yes, when the Georgia Film Academy decided that we needed a workforce for esports and gaming, where do you think we went for our curriculum and our partnership? Again, I'm going to let Todd tell you all about this, but what a privilege it is to introduce you all to my friend and colleague, the state's leader and go-to man in all things esports and gaming, Mr. Todd Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Stepakoff, and thanks to the Atlanta Rotary. I mean, this is really a pleasure to be here at an organization that has such a great history of service. And by a show of hands, how many people in the last week played a video game? More than expected, but now think to your children or your grandchildren and speculate, by a show of hands, do you think they played a video game in the last week? Okay, yeah. So that's what we're going to talk about, really, is kind of this generational gap, and I hope that I can serve as a bit of a bridge around educating all of you around this new nascent industry that's so important, not just economically, and I'm a business person, so I'll talk about the business of the industry. I'm also a parent. What does gaming mean for your child? And more than that, I'm a citizen of the world. And so like you, I think a lot about how to make the world a better place. And so you might have walked into the room a bit skeptical about games and esports, but I'm going to see your challenge and I'm going to raise you. I hope that by the time you walk out of the room, you are going to understand that gaming, when implemented correctly, truly will make the world a better place. And my reason for being here is to enlist partners in making that happen. So before I start, of course, thank you very much to Mr. Stepakoff for that introduction. I also want to acknowledge Katie Kirkpatrick from the Metro Chamber, who's been such a supporter of this new industry, and then the two guests that are partners of mine at Ghost Gaming. So with that, about 2 years ago, before COVID, I was in Arthur Ashe Stadium, where the US Open is played. I was there for the World Championship of the game Fortnite. Familiar with Fortnite? Yeah, it's kind of broken through to the mainstream. And this Fortnite World Championship, I had to walk through first 50 production trucks, the biggest event production I've seen outside of the Super Bowl. I saw young children dragging their mother and father. I saw mothers and fathers dragging their young children. It was truly a family event. Over the course of that weekend, $30 million were dispensed. One 16-year-old kid, under the name Booga, walked away with $3 million, becoming a millionaire overnight. He was on The Tonight Show that night. He was on The Today Show the next day. Fortnite and that $30 million prize, that's not even the largest of this sort of event in esports. This week, tomorrow, in fact, another competition will launch from a game maybe you've heard of called League of Legends. League of Legends will have viewership that rivals the Super Bowl. Close to 1 million individual humans will watch and experience and cheer for League of Legends. And then later this week on Thursday, another game that you probably haven't heard of, Defense of the Ancients 2, Dota 2. It'll take place in Europe, and that game will have a $40 million prize pool. So clearly, for some reason, you may not understand why, a lot of people are competing and putting economic resources behind this competitive activity called esports. And fortunately, here in Atlanta, as I mentioned, the Chamber, the Sports Council, also has recommended or recognized the potential to bring that sort of economic impact here through events. And so with that, I'd love to take you all to an event. It's the best way to experience this, but the next best thing is watching a video. So if we can see a video that has some event footage, all of this was shot in and around Atlanta.
I truly believe esports is the future of sports and media, and Atlanta is positioned to lead.
And this is going to be awesome. You guys ready for today? I think we can do it a little bit better. Atlanta, are you ready?
Our mission is to generate sports impact in our entire community by recruiting and hosting major sports events. We've had a great run of traditional sports. A Super Bowl we hope to have every 10 years. The World Cup, we want to have it in 26, but esports is an annual impact each and every year. So in the spirit of being forward-thinking, and looking at what's here, what's now, and what's next, we see esports as that opportunity. We're great at going after the traditional sports. Now let's really start thinking about the future and esports as an industry, and how can we kind of wrap that within our work.
Gaming as an industry is massive. It's $140 billion globally, so actually larger than the film industry and the music industry combined. And around Atlanta, we've really seen gaming explode. Atlanta is actually the #1 ranked city in terms of a gaming environment. And last year alone, the gaming industry contributed about $750 million in direct economic impact to the state of Georgia.
Everything going Atlanta's way.
You know, in Atlanta, we do pride ourselves on being forward-thinking. We concentrate on that next generation of talent, what's next on the horizon, from sports, from economics, from business. Things are changing, and that's exciting, and we love to think that we're innovative and that we're thinking about what's new and around the corner. And esports, frankly, a few years ago felt like it was new and around the corner, and now it's here. It's what's now, and we like being a part of that.
There's the boom from that party!
Over the last year, Atlanta has led with some of the largest traditional sports events and also in this new emerging form with esports. That's why we're super excited these worlds are coming together in the formation of the Atlanta Esports Alliance.
Every city in the country has a group like ours. And from my perspective, being the head of the Atlanta Sports Council, to be the first sports commission in the country to launch an initiative and an entity underneath us that's dedicated solely to the development of esports in our community, I think is fantastic for us as an organization. But to be able to work with leaders like Todd Harris and others, I think is just a great opportunity. We can't pass it up.
So esports, first of all, what is it? We're really talking about video games played at a very high level of competition, often in front of spectators. That's really what we mean with esports, structured competitive play of video games. May not seem real to you. You may ask why people are watching other people play video games, and I understand that. Think about yourself watching golf, though, or football, or NASCAR. At the end of the day, these are individuals that are displaying mastery, teamwork at an extreme level that's entertaining, more entertaining at this point than just about any other media form out there. Esports is the most visible tip of a pyramid, an iceberg, if you will, which is gaming. So esports, the event, the competitive nature is about $1 billion globally. And the gaming industry, we made that video 2 years ago, those stats are now out of date. It's well past 140. It's $180 billion for gaming. And again, for context, all of the film industry and all of the music industry, or another comparison would be all of the film industry and all of North American professional sports put together. Gaming is larger than that, and it's still growing. It's growing on every platform. It's still growing on the personal computer, still growing on the device in your living room, the Xbox or the PlayStation. Of course, it's growing the fastest on this device, the computing device that every young person is growing up with. There are now 3 billion gamers. Half of the world almost is gaming, and it's only because technology hasn't gotten to the other places yet. So in terms of economic impact, this is very big, it's very real. I want to talk about how, knowing that we have the attention of the world, we use that attention for good. But I'll take a brief aside and talk about parents, because I'm a parent of a gamer, and you are as well. And I would say that while, like any activity, gaming can be taken too far, it can be done to excess. When done with the correct structure, it is a force for good and for positive character development. And I would challenge you to think of it the way you might think if your son and daughter was engaged with a traditional sport or an intellectual activity like chess. You could play too much chess, but chess is basically an intellectual sport, and it teaches discipline and mastery. The additional benefit with esports is many of the games are played in teams, so you get a component of teamwork. And I was listening to a past Rotary session from the gentleman from Georgia State talking about he has seen that teamwork is just not taught as much in school today. The social emotional learning, the soft skills, communication skills, teamwork, unless you happen to play a traditional sport, you may not gain those skills as a young person. And these are skills that gaming can and does deliver when administered the right way. So as a parent, I would say, number one, think that your child engaging with gaming, it may be their first online experience. It's a chance to teach them digital citizenship. Number two, think about those soft skills. Talk with them about their passion and their interest. What did they learn in today's gaming session? What are their goals for the next session? And finally, the hard skills of gaming: engineering, video editing, digital art, web design, social media, content creation. These are the skills that the next generation workforce needs, and all these can be done with gaming. You may take my word for it, but instead, I'd rather cue up words of NFL Hall of Famer. So if we could see the next video.
All right, well, we're here with Steve Young. Needs no introduction, but sometimes he does. And maybe in the esports world, right? Because this is something that's pretty new for you all.
Well, what's amazing is my two boys. I have a 18-year-old and a 16-year-old, and both of them are not interested in sports. They're not interested in playing sports. My oldest one was had a Twitch handle, and he had like 3,000 followers, and he's an entertainer. Now he wants to go into music theater, and he's a gamer. And then my younger one is 100% gamer. He wants to go to school for it. So for me, I've had to transition and see the incredible possibilities that SkillShot and other companies are providing an opportunity for jobs in the future, for professional. I mean, so to me, you guys are my hero. Like, I'm all focused on this, like, because that's my, all politics are local. What happens in my family is what really matters to me. And for my family, it's really getting these kids that my boys love the technology. My oldest was just started, he said, I'm going to publish a game. I'm going to make a game. So he started drawing last week on his iPad. He started from scratch. And I'm like, that's what he loves. And I told him he's going to be a writer. And there's writing in the gaming industry. There's publishing. There's coding. There's art. There's all the parts of it. And so, you got the right guy when you got me going on this. So
I come from a sports background too. I played at UCLA soccer, and so that was my thing. But I'm curious how, like, as a parent, the transition of expecting your kids to play traditional sports and then being so accepting. You seem like you're on the much more accepting path than a lot of parents I would expect in this.
My generation of parents are going to be the ones that look down on it and don't think much of it. And the next generation will recognize what the truth is. This is a tremendous opportunity. Now, are there issues that you have to be aware of? Like anything, you can overtrain in soccer. Like anything, it can get out of whack. So to me, the opportunities, parents need to see that there's incredible opportunities in the gaming industry for their kids that love it. That's an attraction, and the parents know it. It's like, my kid and in a way that's just, and so use that as a stepping stone or a leg up to all these other publishing, art, writing. It's all part of the gaming industry that you can use this fixation, this fascination with gaming can leap into all these other places. That's why the parents today, my age, need to recognize that do not be late on this, because you're just being truly old-fashioned. It is, and I'm not trying to say something, I'm trying to fool you or fake you out. This is like something that you need to get on board with, because the opportunities are immense.
Wow, I mean, no introduction and no words after that. Thank you so much, Steve. Drop the mic, exactly. Thank you so much. And if you look inside, the imagination has certainly been fulfilled here.
My son's in there right now.
Yeah, he's in there right now gaming. All right, well, thank you so much.
Okay, you bet. Take care, you guys.
That's a great transition to the final set of thoughts I'd like to share with you, which is from parenting to impact. Again, to how can we leverage this thing that has the attention of the world for positive impact. And so that video was shot a couple years ago when Atlanta hosted the Super Bowl. And it was shot, some of you may know Dr. Lonnie Johnson, an amazing individual here in town, inventor of the Super Soaker, many robotics, 100 patents to his name. And he, for a long time, has served robotics to at-risk youth out of his center and just doing amazing work. And we looked at the fact that the Super Bowl was coming and that facility and how we could work together to create lasting impact. And worked with Steve Young and Jerry Rice to open an esports lab at that center, at Dr. Johnson's STEM Center, really creating one of the first esports labs, because those computers that the kids game on, they also allow for creation. So you're not just a consumer, you're a creator. Really, an open device like a PC is what allows you to not just play a game, but tinker, build a character, build a level. Next you're thinking, I could even program my own game. It's really pretty magical. And so that implementation was equipping the Johnson STEM Center with a set of PCs for that demographic ahead of the Super Bowl. And we've now followed that up with every Super Bowl since. So we opened one in Miami, we opened one in Tampa, we'll be opening another one in California for the next Super Bowl. And that really is about kind of bridging this gap. Again, when I look at the cause work that Rotary is involved with, and even the set of conversations that happened here recently around, really looking at accessibility, really looking at how can we lift all boats and kind of achieve a flattened playing field. And I was fortunate. I gamed with my father as a young person, and he worked at IBM, and I had one of the first IBM PCs, and I learned to program. growing up wanting to make games. Not every young person has that, but these are the sort of activations that we can do to improve that. So that's really around kind of STEM development, diversity. Another big plank that we see opportunity with and that Mr. Stepakoff talked about is education, not just at the college level, but at K through 12. And I want to share another brief story, which is an entrepreneur, Henry Samueli, out in California, inventor of Broadcom, a billionaire, very passionate around STEM, STEAM, and education. He spent about $80 million building out a STEM ecosystem across the US to get young children involved with these skills of the future. And it delivered some great results, but actually, after about a decade, they looked at it and saw, at the end of the day, they were mainly reaching young white males. They weren't actually moving the needle with more female creators, people of color. And so they pivoted. They said, we need to meet the kids where they are. Where are they? They're gaming. Everybody is gaming. And hence a new nonprofit was born that our company is involved with called NASIF. NASIF delivers free game-based curriculum to K through 12 schools across the country and now across the world. To give you an example of the type of things you can do with games, with backing of Microsoft and the US State Department, we did a competition called FarmCraft. There's a game called Minecraft. It's kind of like digital Legos. You can create anything. They gave the students a challenge to tackle food scarcity inside Minecraft, different biodomes with different environments, maximize the amount of food in this digital world. We had participation of 700 teams across 38 countries. So not only were they learning technology, ag tech, they were interacting with students from completely different cultures. And we've now run that program 3 years in a row. So this is the sort of opportunity that can be unlocked when you have a desire to make the world a better place, and you also have the attention of young people, because so many well-intentioned programs, you lead the horse to water, but they don't drink, instead of giving them something that they're already into, which is video games. I'll touch on two other service-oriented opportunities. One, because David was kind to talk about the upcoming election and just participation in the process in general. We saw a similar opportunity this last summer. There's an organization called Gamers Vote. Again, about half the US considers themselves a gamer. Many of them are not participating in the process. So we put together a form of digital engagement where they came to watch the video games, but in between they saw their favorite gamers and athletes and musicians talking about the power of democracy and the importance of participating in the process. And they could register to vote right there online on the platforms that they were used to, on their mobile phone, on their web browser directly. We'll take a look at one more video, because I know another popular cause of Rotarians is that related to health and benefiting health all over the world. And this was another opportunity. When COVID hit, it was right when we had started the new studio. We couldn't do physical events, so we pivoted to the world of digital events. It started a week after Rob Gronkowski announced he was going to be returning to Tampa and be reunited with Brady. The next week, he issued a challenge to the most famous gamer in the world, Ninja, to meet him in a video game and play on behalf of raising money for COVID. That started a flywheel where other athletes from every professional league, other gamers, rappers, Waka Flocka, Lil Jon, country artists, Rascal Flatts, Disney musical singers, all jumped on board. This is an event we called COVID.
A big, massive streaming event that kicks off on Tuesday, raising money for COVID-19 relief. COVID. It's getting a lot of response. I'm about to walk, yo.
Welcome to COVID, a live streaming gaming, esports, and music charity event supporting the fight against COVID-19. I'm one of the hosts, Aaron Ashley Simon, and joining me is my tag team partner, Michelle Morrow.
Oh yeah!
Oh my God!
That's the Mike Tyson right there. Oh! The smallest mistake will cost you. There's action all over the place. I'm just trying to keep up with it here.
This is gonna get exciting.
We'll take that. We'll take that.
These guys are playing it seriously right now. Oh my gosh, I don't even think that player knows what just happened to them. Hio putting on a clinic of clean edits and shots right now.
2 lucky people will win a Creator PC.
For Warzone, definitely. This PC's got some awesome specs.
Are you guys fighting right now?
Yes.
Both down, both down, both down. I got them both.
What would a big day be without a halftime show? And what would a halftime show be without performances?
So folks, that does it for Sam and myself. Thanks again for tuning in. A big thank you to our fellow hosts, Aaron, Michelle, Rachel, Marcus. Remember, you can still donate. Go to the website, donate.cove-aid.org. Thank you for tuning in. Good night and good game.
So just example of some of the magic that we can do. Again, that event raised about $400,000 for AmeriCares, Boys Club of America, and want to thank DoorDash that said they were going to deliver a meal to someone in need for every viewer that we got, over 1 million viewers, over 1 million meals. And so we're just getting started. I mean, this is the birth of a brand new media form, a brand new form of sports, albeit digital electronic sports. It's happening here in Atlanta thanks to the fact that we have such great public support from the state, from the city, from the different metro chambers, and happen to have all the ingredients around in terms of private companies across the ecosystem. We're working on workforce development with our friends at the Georgia Film Academy, and we invite more partners. I mean, this has the attention of the world, and if it doesn't have your attention, I would ask you why not, because it deserves it. If you want to do good in the world, go where the people are, go where the kids are, and this is where they are. So before I open up to questions, that's really my call is, you know, see myself, see one of the great partners here at the table or others, and let's do some good together leveraging video games. Thank you.
We do have time for a couple of questions for Todd. Let's see, Lana?
All right, I have a very big surprise, which you may not know about, how much good you've really done. We had a young fellow from Alabama who was playing football at Harvard, broke his neck, high level, couldn't move anything from the neck down, on a ventilator. He is gaming. Our therapist rigged up things, so he has switches here on each side of his head. He can play the games, and he is very engaged. It gave him something to grasp and have fun with. And he's going back to college. He loves college, and he's waiting to get into law school. And to his parents' amazement, he's making money so he can pay for all his college.
Wow, I love to hear that.
Because of you.
Well, and others. The Shepherd Center here locally is doing great work, rehabilitative therapy, and there are many stories of young men and women that were competing in traditional sports and through sports injury or car accident, lost mobility, and are able to compete. I have a similar story where the game we made at High Res was called Smite. I talked with a young man in Alabama who wanted to chat with me because for the first time he could be on the varsity team for his high school, because his high school, as they have in Georgia, have adopted esports as a varsity letter sport. This young man had been confined to a wheelchair from a very early age, and but he could play. He could play on behalf of his school. He could earn a letter jacket, and he's inspired to work in the industry. So I love stories like that. Thank you.
Yes, just a quick question. When you talk about esports, the fighting game community always kind of seems to sit on the right side, even in the presentation. So, you know, you have your Fortnites and all your other team-based games. but the fighting game community is not usually represented, which is kind of a shame because it's one of the most diverse communities that you have, and there's a lot of places where you can play here in Atlanta. What is it going to take to blend or bring in the fighting game community into esports as a whole?
Yeah, shout out to 404 Gaming, another great fighting game community. So you're right, even the fighting game community doesn't even tend to like the term esports, but I think it's just a matter of time. I think that one, not to get too much in the industry weeds, but it actually gets a little into the business model of the game publisher. The game publisher is the entity that makes the game. They have the most power in the whole ecosystem. And when a game is a free-to-play business model where you want to have players for decades, then supporting esports extends the life of the game and draws more engagement, and that delivers financial return to the publisher. Most fighting games are not that business model. They happen to be for the console and they're pay once. You know, you get the new Street Fighter, you get the new Tekken, whatever it is, and because of that, those publishers don't inject as many economic resources because they don't have as much incentive to keep you playing. So I think what is really going to change is when new publishers have free-to-play business models. So here locally, Blue Mammoth with Brawlhalla, that's a free-to-play game, and that gets a ton of support by our company. We actually did an event 2 weekends ago out of Lindbergh, 50,000 concurrent viewers. You know, we were running it out of a tiny little room, 50,000 people for 6 hours a day. And Riot is also working on a new free-to-play game. So when the publishers have free-to-play versions, I think you'll see a lot more support. But Atlanta leads in the fighting game community. We have some of the best players in the world, so it's another unique asset that we have here.
Zach?
Is there an addiction component to these games?
Yeah, it's a good question. And so it's been looked at a lot. I think it depends on what you call addiction. Certainly there's no physiological addiction, but can they be played to excess? 100%. They certainly can, as any activity can. And so I encourage, as the parent of 2 gamers and other parents, I would encourage people to take a look at that and emphasize balance. And in the same way you could be playing too much chess, too much sport, or too much of a musical instrument, every household has to look at, what makes up a balanced contributing member of the family and make sure those needs are being met. So I think that, that's just a watchword for any activity. I would also, if in your household, I would always say when you're engaging in gaming, it's replacing some other activity, and look at what that is. Because in many households, what it actually replaces is the passive consumption of TV. And so games are unique from any other media because they are not passive. When you are in a movie, you are sitting back and watching. Even when you're reading a book, you're leaning in a little bit and you're using your imagination. A game, what makes it a game is that you are the protagonist, you have agency, you make meaningful choices. And that's a very powerful lesson. It's also a positive feedback loop, and it feels good when you accomplish goals. And so I'd say look at what it's replacing. It's in most cases replacing sitting in front of what we used to call the boob tube. Now it's a little bit of live streaming, and I think it's a much better upgrade in terms of engaging compared to TV. If the kid's not getting outside at all or other things, then you obviously would need to look at that as you would anything.
Jeff?
Yeah. First, a suggestion. I think we should redo the video with current head of the chamber, new numbers, but also I'd love to see some of these young people who have the experience to have a team. Maybe because I'm an educator, a teacher at Emory, I like to see the actual kids because many people in this room, like Dave Moody, were athletes. I'm 6'3", and I'm actually the white man who can jump, but I'd like to have like a 5'6" kid and say this gives me a chance for a team sport. But I also want to look at the bigger civic effects and economic effects and get your commentary, because there is a study that, I don't know if you know, but at UGA, at Emory where I teach, at the Ivies, at liberal arts schools, it's 44% men, 56% women, only because boys are given an advantage in admissions. Otherwise, it would be more imbalanced, 40-60 maybe. And studies have shown that it's mostly because the boys, maybe they'd be watching some boob tube, but when they break down, it's boys in high school and junior high playing video games. to such an extent that they're not doing nearly as much homework as the girls are, and that's why the boys have to be given a great advantage coming into college. Now, I don't say that only as a criticism, although I do think the time put into video games is draining our overall workforce development. Not everyone can be programming video games, but I think there is a great opportunity here, which is, I've always wondered why gamification is not used more for education. If the kids are totally into games, maybe that's an opportunity for Atlanta. Why don't we become the world center of using games, since we have all this expertise, to get the kids who are somewhat hooked on games a chance for a deeper level of education?
Yeah, well, yeah, there was a lot there, but at the heart of it, what makes a well-designed game is the same as what makes a well-designed education program. You have agency, you're giving control to the person, you're presented with clear goals that are a slight reach for your level of difficulty. Not too easy, not too hard. You get immediate feedback, you get shinies, you get sounds, you get auditory cues when you accomplish that, and then you're presented with a harder challenge. And these days, because of the internet, you're doing it in a communal social setting. That is the definition of good education, and we need more of that. So yes, the reason I'm wearing a Fitbit is gamification. And schools are going to learn from games. It is not an if, it is when. And so yes, what organizations like NASIF do are basically project-based learning that happen to use video games and virtual worlds because it's the most effective way to get positive student outcomes. And anyone who's interested in this topic, you can go to nasif.org. There's millions of dollars of research that shows when implemented correctly, video games in the school setting, not at home because you're going to play them anyway, literally in the school setting, positive social emotional learning, more engagement with STEM, more engagement with school than before. And so yeah, super passionate on this topic, would love to make Atlanta the leader of the world around it.
Thank you so much, Todd.
Thanks for the questions, thanks for the attention.
Todd, you've given me a whole new perspective on my 16-year-old playing Rocket League. Thank you especially, though, for taking all of that incredible success and also doing such great things for the community and for the world. We really appreciate your being here today. Next week, we are off for Columbus Day, and then we'll return the week after that to hear Michael Lomax, the President and CEO of the United Negro College Fund. Hope you all enjoy the week and have a great Columbus Day holiday. Thank you.